Good Sunday evening. I'm meteorologist Lena Mariarango with Fox 26 here in Houston, your Gulf Coast Weather Authority, with your daily tropical briefing. We do these every single day, no matter what is happening in the tropics for the entire duration of the Atlantic hurricane season, shortly after 4 p.m. to let you know kind of what's happening and what's going on in the tropics. Figured I would start with kind of an overview of what's happened so far since we are closing out, the first official month of hurricane season, the month of June, coming to a close, and pretty soon we won't have much more to talk about. The first named storm of the season did happen early on. It did happen in the Gulf of Mexico. That was Arlene, and it didn't really go anywhere. It was in the eastern Gulf. And then we had a very rare occurrence of two named tropical storms in the Atlantic basin in what we refer to as the main development region. So this is where we typically see activity during the peak of hurricane season, not in June. And we haven't had two named systems in that area in the month of June since 1968. So to have Brett and Cindy form there and basically take the same path, I mean, eventually, upper level winds and steering currents kind of took them in different directions. Brett went straight across the Lesser Antilles and fizzled out, no longer with us. Cindy is still there, but not for much longer. Taking a look at the names, so that's our third name system in total. And if this is your first time seeing this list, there's a reason why these boxes are popped out in a lighter shade of blue. It's because we made our way back to the same list of names that we were using in 2017. Remember, these are cycled every 6 years, and sometimes names do get retired. Of course, that was the year that we had Harvey, a very destructive system that we know all too well. We also had Irma, Maria, and Nate get retired from that list, so they were replaced with Harold, Idalia, Margot, and Nigel. So we're down to the C name. Next up would be D for Dawn, but there's nothing out there being monitored in the tropical Atlantic right now for development. As mentioned, we do still have Tropical Storm Cindy out there. At this point, it is starting to weaken, so we're not going to be talking about Cindy much longer. There's definitely some convection coming off of West Africa and the Sahel, but none of this is really all that organized or looks to become anything more than what it is, which is thunderstorms over the open Atlantic waters. You can see the remnants of Brett. That's this cluster of thunderstorms right here, kind of approaching Central America and also portions of southern Mexico at this time. Zooming you into Cindy and taking a look at the high resolution satellite imagery while we can, as the sun kind of starts to set there. The center of circulation, you can make it out, right? You can see the circulation right about here, and notice the convection's all displaced, right? Off to the north and east. And there's a reason why I'm going to pop on the upper level winds, the wind shear. Look at how strong it is. So it's just ripping this storm apart. It's shearing off all the convection to the upper northeast side of this system. And that's part of the reason why this is starting to fall apart and kind of lose its steam, is just the conditions are not quite as favorable anymore for it to get any stronger than it already has. So we've only had tropical storms so far this season, nothing make it past that point to a strength of a hurricane. Right now, Cindy has winds sustained of 45 miles an hour, moving to the northwest at about 16, so a pretty good clip. This is as of the latest advisory that just came out at 4 o'clock. And as we take a look at where she's going to go, well, not that much farther, right? By tomorrow morning, likely going to be dissipating to just a remnant low. And then, of course, an open ocean water. So not threatening any of the Caribbean islands, not threatening Bermuda. That's what we like to see, is those fish storms that just kind of peruse through the open Atlantic and don't really bother anyone aside from, of course, shipping vessels or maybe some cruise lines that might be out there and have to divert away from those systems. Taking a look at tropical climatology, once Cindy's gone, the Atlantic is going to be quiet again, which is what we would expect to see at this time of the year, right? The peak of hurricane season happens September 10th. That's when we see most of that activity again in the main development region that I was just showing you. Here we are way over here, and notice we don't expect to see much activity. So things were kind of off to a rip-roaring start, and then the basin's going to quiet down, and of course we'll see where we go, because we can only make projections or predictions based off of the information that we have, large-scale patterns such as El Nino or La Nina, but weird things can happen. And last season was certainly, a reminder of that. It was a very odd or weird season, although we were in a rare triple-dip La Nina, in which you wouldn't really expect to see a lot of activity. Well, we sure did. Taking a look at sea surface temperatures, this is what fueled or allowed for the ability for those storms to fuel, how warm these ocean waters are. And you can actually see the dip in temperatures, right, where the ocean was overworked because two systems went in that direction. But lower where that convection is forming, we still have sea surface temperatures running substantially above average in the low to mid 80s. And you get a little bit closer to home. In fact, I think I might have put these graphics out of order. Yeah, take a look at the temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, plenty warm enough. In fact, in some spots, kind kind of closer to the Caribbean islands, just off to the south of Florida, 87 degrees. Gulf of Mexico, 86 once you get out a little bit farther away from kind of Galveston Bay, where the temperatures are a little bit closer to 85. I mean, still plenty warm enough to sustain any type of activity that was able to get going. And in fact, that's where we normally look for activity in the month of June. So these are the areas that we typically see activity, not where we have seen it. For starters, of course, the Gulf of Mexico, and that was where Arlene formed. And sometimes these systems that can get going kind of in the Bay of Campeche do tend to impact us. Well, we've been lucky so far. We haven't seen anything yet, but we know that it only takes one, and you got to be prepared no matter what. Even in, a not quite so active season, you can always have just one or two very destructive storms. We also kind of look in the Western Caribbean, and these tend to impact the Yucatan Peninsula. Sometimes they make it into the Bay of Campeche and can certainly continue to re-strengthen or spin up into something else. And then we also kind of look towards the Bahamas, near the Caribbean islands, and these systems do tend to take kind of a north and easterly turn, but can sometimes cause some impacts to, Florida, the Carolinas, or the southeastern coast of the U.S., depending on how close they are or aren't and are tracking before they kind of get swept out to sea. So we're again closing out the month of June. That's where we would have normally seen activity. Definitely an unusual start to hurricane season. And again, we are in an El Nino year, and where this helps us is the more wind shear. And so we've seen storms kind of start to get shredded apart by that influence of those stronger upper level winds. But normally we would expect to see a cooler Atlantic, and that's not what we're seeing. So again, you can't just look at one thing and have that be a guarantee of how hurricane season is going to go, because last year in a La Nina year, we would have anticipated to see less activity, and that didn't end up being necessarily the case. Now, in a El Nino year, which is what we're dealing with right now, you would expect to see more activity in the Pacific because of warmer waters. And again, the reverse is true. What we're actually seeing is that nothing has happened so far in the Pacific. So let's take a look at that for you here. There are a couple areas that are being monitored for development in the Pacific, and it looks like I put the wrong graphic in here, so I do apologize for that. But taking a look at the Pacific names here, notice none of them are checked off, and that's because there have been no name systems so far, and the Pacific season does start earlier than the Atlantic season. It starts in May 15th. So they've had no systems, and typically every other year in May there is at least one, and sometimes those strengthen to hurricanes. This time around, though, it's just been bone quiet. Nothing's been happening there. Again, aside from those two disturbances that are being monitored, one has medium chances for development, the other one has high chances for development. Right now they're very raggedy looking and not well organized, but potentially could become a tropical depression on either side of the coin for both of those. So where are we and where are we going? Well, we've got those two different outlooks, one from Colorado State University, one from, of course, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Administration. They're pretty close to each other. Of course, CSU gives you one number, a fixed number, 15 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 3 majors is what we are expecting. The NOAA forecast gives you a range, and of course these numbers fall pretty much in line with that range, so they're basically right split down the middle, right? NOAA's predicting 12 to 17 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, 1 to 4 majors. We've seen 3 named storms, all tropical systems, nothing of course yet reaching hurricane strength. Here's your average numbers, and this is a climatological average over a span of 30 years, which right now is a 1991 to 2020. We would expect to see 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So maybe a slightly above average season. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of pans and plays out, right? Because yes, we have an El Nino year, but we've got those warmer sea surface temperatures. So it's almost a little bit of a tug of war, right? One thing's fueling the storms, and the other one is preventing them from strengthening or becoming anything more than they are. Either way, now is the time to plan, prepare, review everything that you have, review your hurricane kits. JD does those great hurricane gear test segments. Maybe you're looking to kind of add a couple things to your arsenal. You want to make sure that your plans are in place. You review those plans with everyone in your household so that you know how to act and you don't have to panic when it comes time to deal with the system. That way you've got everything kind of set up, ready to go ahead of time, because again, it only takes one, and we know that, and we've seen that, and we've experienced it time and time again. We're here to guide you through it, of course, no matter what happens, but we want to make sure that everyone's prepared and ready to go. And part of the things that should be, so to speak, in your hurricane gear kit is our Fox 26 weather app, because this gives you all the information that you need. First of all, you can watch our coverage from there in the event that your power goes out. Second of all, you get the hurricane watches and warnings, anything tropically speaking that's warned, and you can put the Follow Me feature on. So it's going to give you this information for your precise GPS location, even in the event that you have to evacuate. It's going to continue to follow you regardless of where you are. So that way you're getting the information that's important to you, that you need to keep you safe, again, regardless of where you are at that time or what is happening around you. That'll do it for us today, but we'll be back, of course, shortly after 4 o'clock tomorrow, like we are every single day, letting you know what's happening in the tropics. For now, if you're local in Texas, well, try and stay cool as we make our way through this second batch of a heat wave.